assigned to discuss the Chapter 8, and the coverage of my part are key terms, chapter preview, goals, language change, causes of language, articulatory of simplification, regularization, language contact, kinds of language change, phonological change, morphological change, and syntactic change. Next, I will go to tell you what are the key terms and the chapter previews. These are the key terms. Adaptation, allophobic, change, analogy, anaptexis or Saravaki, apocope, assimilation, dissimilation, backformation, borrowing, broadening, narrowing, change shift, cognates, comparative, method, compensatory, lengthening, contamination, criterion of plurality, dilatation, divergence, appendices, diachronic, linguistics, donor, accipient, language, ellipsis, crescent, folk etymology, reanalysis, great vowel, shift, Grimm's law, haplology, hypercorrection, internal reconstruction, language family, Latin rhetoricism, loan shift, loan translation, loan words merger, split metalysis, recutting, metaphor, metasis, metonymy, pejoration, amelioration, phonemic, plausibility, prestige, need filling, motifs, proto-language, push change, pull chain, relative, chronology, sister language, superstarium, substarium, language, sign club, and amelot. And this is the chapter preview. In this chapter, it is most subfields of linguistics, describe and explain language. This is useful simplification that has enabled much of the progress made by modern linguistics, but in reality, language are constantly incrementally changing. And in this chapter, it discusses the causes, processes, and mechanism of language. We'll discuss the causes of language change and the four main kinds of language change. Then we will discuss in more detail of some of the mechanism of language change. And finally, we will see how linguistics use knowledge and how to process, reconstruct language that are no longer spoken. So the first is language change. I will tell you first what is language change. Is the phenomenon by which permanent alterations are made in the features and the use of language over time. And also, all natural language change and language change affects all the areas of language uses. So it has four types of language changes. The first one is sound changes, semantic changes, lexical changes, and syntactic changes. These are the four language changes. And also, language is always changing. We've seen that language changes across space and across social group, and language also varies across time. And generation by generation, pronunciations evolve new word and borrowed or invented the meaning of old words drifts, and morphology develops or decay. The rate of changes are faster and lower. Example, the word either. Other pronounce it as either, and other pronounce it as either. That's the way how they pronounce it, and it adapted it to another language. Second is causes of language change. Language change because they are used by human beings, not machine. Human beings share common psychological and cognitive characteristics, but members of a speech community differ slightly in their knowledge and use their shared language. So, for example, our parents and or other adults uses informal language to children. So children may acquire some informal feature of the language. Like they adapt it, and that's why children nowadays become ruder and less eloquent and are corrupting the language. Because generation acquires and are innovating in the language introduced by previous generation. That's why language change, or that's the causes of language. So the third is articulatory simplification, and I'm going to tell you first what is articulatory simplification. It refers to the process of making speech sound easier to produce by modifying or reducing their articulatory complexity. This can occur naturally in language over time, as speakers tend to simplify sounds that are difficult to pronounce and also often simplified to a more common sound, such as in dialects or languages. And also articulatory simplification, it is making the words easier to pronounce. And all these clusters were in many cases simplified by assimilation. So these are the examples. Proto-Slavic, it written there, Nozeka, small foot, and the arrow here, it means to became. So in Russian, Nozeka, it pronounced it Noska. So the first consonant became more like the second sound. In this case, the first sounds become the voice. So the fifth is language contact. Language contact occurs when speakers of two or more language varieties interact and influence each other. The study of language contact is called contact linguistics. When speakers of different languages interact closely, it is typical for their language to influence each other. Example, English speaker acquired new words for cuisine for their meat were the same, but Normans ate pork, not pig, and mutton, not sheep. So English gained this semantic distinction. To Middle English, farmer raised pigs and sheep but ate pork and mutton. So this example, it's just like the same meat but different term or words. It is semantic distinction. 6 is kind of language change. In historical linguistics, they are focused on 4 types of language change. These are the phonological change, morphological change, syntactic change, semantic change. It because the subsystem of language are independent of change in one subsystem, can initiate a chain reaction at changes in other subsystems. 7 is phonological change. First is going to define to you what is phonological change. It is the study of the sound system of language. A language sound system is made to set up phonemes which are used according to phonological. Example, the phonemes E different from the phoneme I. So if we use the word set instead of sit, the meaning of the word will change. So that is phonological change. 8. Morphological change. Morphological change is a study of the structure and form of words, language, including inflection, derivation, and the information of compounds. Morphology is one branch of linguistics and one major component of grammar that studies work structure specifically in terms of morphemes. Morphology is a study and description of word formation as instructions, derivations, compounding in language. So, let's talk about morpheme. A morpheme is the smallest unit of meaning, is the minimal unit of meaning or grammatical function. It is the smallest morphological unit that cannot be divided into smaller parts. Example, reopen. RE is the minimal unit of meaning, which again, and open also a minimal unit, while ED is the grammatical function, indicate past tense. 9. Syntactic change is a type of natural language variation that refers to changes in grammar of language. In most basic syntax follow a subject, verb, and direct object. Example, Jillian hit the ball. So Jillian is the subject verb, hit is a verb, ball is object, and we follow the SOB basis. So that was syntactic change. And also it can help us to understand the sentence or phrases. 10. Semantic change. Semantic change is a form of language change regarding the evolution of word usage, usually to the point that modern meanings is radically different from the original change. Language change is not just about looking at new words which enters our language. It is also about considering words that change in meaning over time. And also, semantic change can broaden the meaning of the words. What was my topic all about? I hope you understand something about my topic. Thank you.